Muy buenas tardes a todos. Les saluda el profesor Cristian Cristóful, coordinador del Departamento de Inglés del Instituto Superior de Lenguas. Les damos la bienvenida a la defensa de tesis de Constanza, Allen, Olavarrieta y Valentina Korpershoek, Parquet. Ellos tienen una defensa de tesis sobre hiperactividad. Vamos a ver el nombre, no recuerdo, acá está. La tesina se titula How to Succeed in Classroom Management while Having Students with ADHD in a Private Bilingual School in Asuncion, Paraguay. Las chicas van a defender su tesis. La presidenta de mesa del día de hoy es la profesora Romina Bento y les acompañan las demás miembros del comité evaluador, la profesora Belén Migliorisi y la profesora Carolina Ortiz. Entonces, chicas, tienen 30 minutos para defender su tesis y pueden empezar ahora.
Good evening, professors, and welcome to our thesis defense on how to succeed in classroom management while having students diagnosed with attention deficit and hyperactivity disorder in a private bilingual school in Asuncion, Paraguay. We are Constanza and Valentina Korpershoek, and today we'll take a deeper look into ADHD's most significant aspects.
Good evening, everyone. It is impossible. Can we check this? Because you won't understand what we're talking about if we don't show the...
It was working just fine a few minutes ago. It happens.
Sí, siempre hay dificultades técnicas, pero vamos a esperar, vamos a ser pacientes y va a salir todo bien.
There, it's solved. Thank you.
Okay. It is impossible and perhaps, it is difficult and perhaps impossible to state with certainty the amount of issues and problems that arise with ADHD. A student with ADHD needs more supervision during lessons than others. The teachers need to be, I don't want to say on top of them, but constantly reminding them on things and helping them finishing their tasks. These students also need extra support and guidance from the teachers and also from their parents in order to fulfill their goals and to take care of their belongings and their responsibilities. Another issue that teachers are not well educated enough in the area, so they cannot sometimes reach their fullest potential to help these kids when inside the classroom, and even more if there are more than 20 other students to help also.
Consequently, they lose control over their classroom environment and they fail to apply these strategies successfully. Our main motivation to further investigate on this topic was to provide these teachers with the strategies and techniques that they need in order to keep the classroom environment at peace and ensure that the learning process is successfully achieved not only by these students, but by all learners. And of course, to motivate them to continue on this wonderful journey of teaching.
Now we move on to our research questions. Our main question is, how can classroom management strategies help teachers with students diagnosed with attention deficit and hyperactivity disorder?
Other questions that helped us navigate through this investigation were, what are the characteristics of ADHD students that affect their behavior inside a class? What is the social factor that affects their concentration levels inside a class and how? As well as what are some techniques that these teachers can implement inside the classrooms to help these students?
Now, what is ADHD? It is also known as attention deficit and hyperactivity disorder. It is believed to be genetic behavioral condition with no known specific cause. It is characterized by the inability to control attention, hyperactivity, impulsivity, which impedes them to fulfill their goals, and also it affects their interpersonal relationships.
Digging in a little,
It is one of the most commonly diagnosed conditions within children and adults.
digging in a little deeper, this is a term that describes an individual who shows constant patterns of inattention, hyperactivity, and impulsivity that negatively affects them, their daily life, their ability to regulate their mood, as well as to control their behaviors. In simpler words, it describes an individual that cannot harness its attention in the right direction, at the right time, and with the same consistency. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, there are three types of ADHD. First and foremost, we'll discuss the combined type. This is the most common type of ADHD, and students affected by this type of ADHD are affected by impulsivity, inattentiveness, and hyperactivity. They cannot sustain their attention for long periods of time. They cannot focus on tasks. They cannot finish tasks. They miss school deadlines set for homeworks or tasks, and they cannot control their physical impulses.
The second one is impulsive hyperactive one. It is the least common type, and well, as the name itself, it is characterized by impulsivity and hyperactivity, but also distractibility and distraction. It is very hard to go inside a classroom if a student is diagnosed with this type of ADHD.
Lastly, there's the inattentive type, which, as its name says, its most predominant trait is inattention. Students affected by this type of ADHD cannot listen or follow instructions, they cannot finish their tasks on time, and they often misplace or even lose their belongings, such as books, materials, and not only it affects them in school, but also in their personal lives.
All of ADHD symptoms can be easily confused with other behavioral issues that the students can bring from home. All of them have different home issues, family issues, different settings and experiences, and they all bring their own problems to the classroom, so they can be easily confused with ADHD symptoms. Now I will mention some of the symptoms that these students do have that are difficulties following instructions, especially if they are as a list. They need constant call for attention all the time in school, at home. They have difficulties completing lengthy assignments. Forgetfulness, they will have to be always reminded of their belongings or finishing tasks, their homeworks. Difficulties solving mathematical operations such as division, multiplication, solving problems, operational situations. And also they have a very hard time working in a group, and this can also affect their other classmates as well.
Nowadays, attention deficit and hyperactivity disorder is one of the most commonly diagnosed disorders within children and the most researched among mental health professionals, according to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. Unfortunately, there is not one clinical specific test to diagnose ADHD. However, an ADHD diagnosis can be reached after a constant repetition of symptoms in different settings of a child's life, for example, at school and at home, within a period of at least 6 months. Also, in combination with a developmental history, clinical assessment, and detailed observation reports, a clear, thorough, and proper diagnosis can be reached.
Moving on to the method section of the study, we have the type of study, which the one we chose was the case study action research approach, which is the approach that best suits the goal of our study and also the research topic, due to the fact that behavior and its consequences cannot be quantified. All the data collected was described, analyzed, and compared. And data analysis. The behavior of the students was compared prior to the application of the strategies, during the application, and after it. This was with the goal of finding out which ones were the strategies and techniques that best suits and best fits with which student, which ones were the strategies that had to be implemented, and which ones had to be eliminated. All of the results differed from child to child, as well as the application. of those techniques.
Moving on, we'll discuss the studying participants as well as the data collection. This study took place in a private bilingual school in Asuncion, Paraguay, where English is used as a medium of learning. The target population was composed of 3 boys, all diagnosed with ADHD, that were gathered from a bigger group of elementary students. The selected participants were chosen by the application of convenience sampling, which, according to Creswell, is a sampling procedure in which the students are selected upon their availability. The teachers received a guide and that they had to follow to apply these tools and observations. So we later observed, compared, and analyzed what they presented to us. Our suggested strategies were number 1, Class Dojo, which is a mobile app that teachers can download on their phones. It's free, and once you've downloaded, you can create your own classroom and decide on a certain set of skills that you want to control. Teachers can either give positive feedback or neutral feedback, but no negative feedback is allowed. Then we've given them some behavior charts like this, in which they had to complete with the subjects they had each day, and the teacher decided on giving a positive reward at the end of every class if the child behaved accordingly to what was expected from them. If they managed to get 5 out of 5 positive rewards, they were to choose from a reward list provided by the teacher. For example, being the line leader, 5 minutes of extra recess, or perhaps listening to music while completing their classwork. Another strategy that really helped was helping them keep their hands busy during instruction time. For that, we've provided different fidget toys, like these, very famous puppets, so they come in all shapes, sizes, and colors. We've also provided them with some dices, also different variations of these dices. It has different gadgets on every time. Some of them are very noisy, including the puppet, so it's not really recommended to use in class. But it can really help at home though. Then these snakes that you can break them apart or put them together in whatever way you like, but also very noisy.
Hola, Nina.
So it's not.
Está apagado el micrófono, así que, y la
Then we
cámara.
have a mesh
Sí.
bag with a
Sí, sí.
marble. Not noisy at all, one of the best fidget toys to use in class. Some rings that are also not noisy, except if they fall down.
Bueno.
That can get a little bit distracting. And our all-time favorite are these little worms, and they also come in every color. They're fun to touch. They have a nice texture, and they really help them. However, teachers do not have to spend a great deal of money buying these fidget toys. Fidget toys can be improvised with things such as pom-poms, which are very soft, nice texture. They also come in all shapes and sizes and colors. Or maybe even these pipe cleaners, which they can roll around their fingers, they can switch them out and back again. The possibilities are endless.
Ay, Belén, lo que todo
Lastly,
está con COVID.
They were given these permission slips to take breaks around the classroom. Whenever the teacher found it suitable or whenever they needed it, they would take a walk around school for whatever time the teacher considered necessary. So right there, they had to write the name of the student. So let's use one of the names of our students. Pierre has permission to leave the class for 3 minutes. I left my class at 10:45. And then the teacher signed it. Now, lastly, another strategy that really worked with everyone, and not only with ADHD students, but for the entire classroom, is the application of brain breaks. These allows the students to divert themselves from work or from tasks for a short period of time, so they can go back to working with the same energy or with the same attention levels as before. There are thousands of brain breaks, but we will present 4 to you today. The first one is focus ball breathing, in which the students have to put the tip of their fingers together. They have to close their eyes, and as they breathe in, they have to feel their core tightening, and they have to feel pressure on the tip of their fingers and create a ball. Once they exhale, they have to close their hands together back again. You can repeat this as many times as you wish. Then stretch out. For this, the students have to stand up next to their desk and mimic the teacher's stretching. Teachers can pretend they're animals, they can pretend they're shapes, and they really love this. They don't even realize they stopped working. Another strategy is making it rain. They have to tap the table with the tip of their fingers, first one finger at a time, increasingly until you get to 10. Once they all do this together, it really sounds like it's raining. And the last strategy, number 4, make X's and O's. It's really like stretching out, but with a but differently. They have to move their chairs next to their desk and form an X with their bodies, and then when the teacher says curl, they have to curl up like a ball.
Now we will take a look at the limitations of the study, which were a few, but they had to be done in order to make it possible. The main limitation was the dependence on the diagnosis of these students, which we had to find 3 of them in order to make it reliable. Another major limitation was finding these students with different age levels, but as I said, a similar diagnosis or proper treatment, and also similar behavior traits and school setting or school environment. Last but not least is the succeed of the strategies implemented in the classroom and the techniques used by the teachers was not guaranteed.
The main ethical concern that arose during this investigation was safeguarding the students' identities as well as the sensitive information collected of them. In the next section, we'll discuss the results. As mentioned before, we selected 3 students all diagnosed with ADHD, and they all present different characteristics or symptoms of ADHD. First and foremost, we'll discuss student 1 results, whom for the purpose of this presentation we'll name Pierre. Piero is a young boy, super sweet boy, who at the beginning of the study was 8 years old and is currently 9 years old. He makes frequently mistakes, and however, he fully and deeply concentrates when it comes to activities of his liking, whether they're academic or not. For example, he really loves math and he really loves reading. So those were activities of his liking, and he would listen to the teacher, he would complete his work, even if it took a little more effort than usual. So during the first few weeks, we can see that he had a hard time adjusting to these strategies, but he manages to accommodate to them positively. In combination with him wanting to improve himself and overcome his limits with the management strategies, he improved in almost all areas. He never felt with fear, he remained seated, he had his desk organized, his table was clean, he entered the class in a positive manner, and he waited for his turn. However, coming back from summer break in February 2021, he had a harder time adjusting to his new environment. The new teacher, new materials, he was going to 4th grade, so everything academically became more challenging. But once he managed to accommodate again, his motivation in combination with the classroom management strategies worked wonders.
To student number 2, we will call Bernardino, who is an 8-year-old boy who was 7 years old when the study started. He was in 2021 in 2nd grade, now he's in 3rd grade. Last year, he was not under any medical treatment. However, now he's taking medicine to appease the symptoms. As you can see, this graphic displays the results of 3 weeks of intensive observation, and that took place in November 2021. And as you can see, he was not doing very well. He had a lot of trouble inside the classroom. Even though it was a time of the year in which he was used to the classmates, to the teachers, and to the classroom rules, the same classmates. And why do I say the same classmates? Because they mix every year. So throughout the whole year, he was with the same friends. But he had a lot of trouble having his desk clean, his table organized. He wouldn't be still inside the classroom. He would forget his homework. He wouldn't end the tasks in the allotted time. And it was not a very good academically, the year for him. However, we can see that in 2022, even though it was everything almost new for him. He changed a lot. He had this was a 2 week observation in which he was a lot more enthusiastic in the classroom. He would finish his things, and this was, of course, the result of of the medicine, and also the strategies and techniques applied to him because he was used to them. He already knew all of these strategies due to the fact that last year he used the same strategies.
Lastly, we have student number 3, whom we'll name Constantino. He was 10 at the beginning of the study, and he's currently 11 years old. When we started observing him, he was in 4th grade, and he's now in 5th grade. He is also a very sweet little boy, and he was diagnosed at a very, very early age. He had a hard time concentrating, paying attention, and he also displayed lots of symptoms of hyperactivity. He even would say that his body would not react to what his brain was telling him to do, so it was even harder for him to control. The trait that characterizes him, however, is hyperactivity, and he started taking medication in May 2020 before this study ever took place. It can be observed that in November 2021, in combination with the medication that he was already taking and the classroom management techniques, he consistently, again, improved in almost all areas, or he stayed at the same level, like, for example, remembering his materials. He began to do better in class over the weeks, and he became more responsible and more participative. However, his anxiety set him back in aspects such as staying in silence, staying in his seat, or respecting his turn. Displayed now is a graph bar for February 2022. As you can tell, it was a harder time also adjusting to a new teacher, new materials, new classmates, and they had to meet, the 5th grade teachers and the 4th grade teachers had to meet to find out what they could do. And the 4th grade teachers stated that the classroom management worked with positive reinforcement, so they reapplied that, and he greatly improved in all aspects. He didn't follow the peer, he finished his task, he listened to the task explanation, the table was clean for more time. However, regardless of the improvements in terms of his academic achievements, medicine caused some health setbacks. He had stomach aches, he lost appetite. However, the professional team working with him suggested that he should still take the medicine regardless of the symptoms because that would give him the gratification that he needs to feel the motivation to fulfill his academic goals.
Luckily, all of these three students had a lot of support from outside and inside the school. They had a great group of professionals working with him outside school, and also inside the school team was working with them, the teachers and the parents as well. And after a thoughtful analysis and proper consideration, we can say that with proper stimuli, support, and in some cases medication, a student with ADHD can be redirected towards the desired behavior. Now we will answer our previously stated questions. The first one is, what is the social factor that affects a student with ADHD inside a classroom and how? A student with ADHD have a lot of problems controlling themselves, therefore they can be impulsive, they can yell at people, they can be overexcited at times, and this can affect their interpersonal relationships and can cause some fights with peers, which leads to them having their low self-esteem and not helping them concentrating inside the classroom.
Then, what are the characteristics of ADHD that affect their behavior in class? The most the major characteristics that affect their behavior in class are difficulties following instructions, difficulties listening to the teacher's instructions, forgetfulness, struggle to complete lengthy assignments, difficulties solving lengthy mathematical operations, and the lack of control over their own body.
The third question is, what are some techniques that the teachers can implement in the classroom to help these kids? And as previously mentioned, We have 5 strategies that really helped almost all of them, and other students as well, even though they have other behavioral issues and they're not diagnosed with ADHD, which are the behavior chart, positive feedback, 5-minute breaks, brain breaks, and class dojo, which is our favorite.
The main focus of our investigation centered around finding how can these strategies help these teachers inside a class when they have students diagnosed with attention deficit and hyperactivity disorder. When these strategies are applied, teachers can create a safe place and limit the students' boundaries by controlling the sudden outburst. And it allows also to model the desired behavior that they want not only the diagnosed students to follow, but the rest of the class. At the same time, these strategies motivate them to overcome their limits and become the best versions of themselves.
Because it is widely known, a healthy environment is healthy. It's good for a student academically, and it helps them fulfill their goals. And nowadays, we have more and more students and kids diagnosed with ADHD, and it is very, very hard to control them inside the classroom, and it becomes very challenging for the teachers. Therefore, there are some strategies and techniques that they can implement in the classroom to help them and to set boundaries for these students. And as I said, this healthy environment is crucial for their overall learning process.
Having reviewed all of these cases, we strongly recommend to consistently investigate on new ways you can help not only your students but their families, to persist until you find the best strategy that fits your child, to pursue and create a healthy environment in which a child diagnosed with ADHD feels safe and feels understood. And lastly, remember that when it comes to classroom management strategies, it's not one size fits all. You have to be ready to make adaptations.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Very well done. Now we go into questions, and I'll leave to the professors to do that part.
Great.
Well, girls, this is a superb work. Thank you. I
Can professors approach the computer so that we can hear, please? Thank you.
Before the purpose here. I was just complimenting them on their research, and I. Is it recording?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. Hi. Again, how did you become interested in this topic?
Well, we both work at a school and we both work with children. And after studying this disorder here, we really want to find ways to help these students in class. Sometimes we feel that they're lost, and many of us don't know how to help them at the right time.
And also realizing inside the classroom how difficult it is when you're not trained enough in order to help them. You feel incompetent and you feel you can do enough for them.
Yes, and you're not getting the best results either.
Yes.
Were you the teachers of these children that you observed, or you asked somebody else to go and observe the classes?
Both. I've been teacher of one of them. She'd been teacher of another one, but
Not at the time of the study.
no, not at the time of the study. But we know them, and also we did need help from their teachers as well.
And did you hear any kind of comments from the teachers after applying the strategies?
They've also noticed the same success that we noted because after we finished observing, we've met with them and we've discussed how do they feel because we don't really know exactly how they behave every day in class because they are 3 different children. So we also had to meet with them to understand. Luckily, we know their personalities and we understand what they're talking about. But being physically there every time every strategy was applied was not possible, so we had to meet.
You needed an extra observer in the class.
Yes.
Okay.
Also in recess.
Yes, that's very interesting to observe because behaving in a closed space is usually different than behaving outdoors.
And the fight with peers mostly happen outside the classroom.
Yes, probably when they are not supervised or when they are not busy doing something else. Yes. Mr. Please? Thank you. I'm so proud of that. I'm so proud. Okay, so thank you for go. Come closer to me then. Um.
To be the one who talks.
Okay.
Okay.
Um. Is there a reason why you didn't choose any girl?
Well, the thing is that girls.
What approach?
I'm sorry. I think we didn't mention that here, but girls usually have another type of symptoms. They are not usually hyperactive. They are more sloppy or forgetful, or it is a different type. So we chose to do it all with boys or all with girls, so that that comparison is more effective.
Also, because since we needed their diagnosis to clearly say that a mental health professional said that this person was diagnosed with ADHD. We needed the report, and mostly boys were diagnosed with ADHD rather than girls. So since we use convenience sampling, we needed to use the participants that were available near us, and no girls were diagnosed with ADHD in our surroundings.
But it is well, it is known that boys tend to have more
Yes,
of this.
yes.
Also,
Okay. So another question I have is what well you have your thesis now. How are you planning to share this with a wider community of teachers that are struggling with students with ADHD situations in their classes? Because we have primary school and we also have people in high school.
Yes.
How do you plan to continue sharing your findings and strategies for teachers? And I also like the fact that you mentioned that they don't necessarily have to buy expensive toys. Sometimes you can be creative and try to find fidgets that can help students because we have these situations in lower income communities as well, right? So, how do you plan to share your findings and create a material uh, and spread it out for teachers in Paraguay that have this situation? How do you plan to do it?
Okay, well, our idea at first was really making a book of this so we could share to everyone. It was then we change, and this is the result of everything. But yes, of course, we are open to anything. We want to share with everyone. We want to help other teachers, and well,
Also, since we've discussed mostly with teachers, even though they're from our surroundings, most of them weren't aware of all of these programs because there are numerous YouTube videos. You could just search brain breaks, and it's imaginary dodging, or guessing the character that appears on the screen, dancing for a little while. So share these strategies because even though we think people around us know them, they really don't. As well, or simple things such as stretching out, just talk about it to our colleagues, talk about it to our peers, and also, like Valentina mentioned, we wanted to create a presentation similar like this, but with the strategies so that more people can become aware of them. We can share them or also create innovative videos that they are so famous right now. What fidget toys can we have at home that we can take to school? Something simple like that.
because what happens also is that some teachers say, I want to do brain breaks because they get all messy, they stand up, then they don't sit again, and it's well, at first maybe they will be like that, but then it's something, an exercise that if they get used to it, they really like, and it helps for the environment.
So you're open to share it with a wider community of teachers if we offer a platform for practicing.
Of course we are.
Yes, of
Fantastic.
course.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Professor Miglerisi.
Okay, good evening, ladies.
Hello.
First and foremost, congratulations. As I mentioned in my feedback, I was thrilled with the topic you chose due to its relevance. And it's really interesting to see how the fact that when you choose a case study, you can actually do an in-depth and thorough research on the subject. So that was something really nice to see as well. Um, Regarding the results you obtained, what other variables do you think in this specific case of these three kids could have influenced the outcome? You talked about the classroom interventions, you talked about medication in one or two cases, I recall. So what other key element variables do you think could have influenced the outcome?
I guess that family support also is very important because the kids feel that, even though we don't think about that, but they do. And we've chosen these three because we have a proper treatment. They have a proper treatment, and their families are very supportive. We had another cases that they weren't like that, but well, we chose these three because of that similarity. But I think that is crucial.
Yeah, family really does play a very important role. And not only there are classroom management techniques, but there are some techniques that parents can implement at home that which they're not really aware of. They don't know how to investigate or how to apply them. Besides including the family in the study, what we could have also done was involving them to understand their feelings, what is making them feel that way, why do they react that way, is it just something, how would they describe their feelings in their own words so that we as adults can understand what's going on inside their brains and inside their minds, inside their bodies.
Excellent. Good. Yes, indeed. Definitely family support is key, as is school support, as you mentioned. And on the other hand, how did the kids feel talking about this when you approached them and you told them about the research you were going to carry out? Because I had read that you had talked to them and mentioned that they were going to be part of this research.
We've talked to them at a child level. They weren't aware of when the application of these strategies were being implemented, except on the case where they were given the permission slips. And also, not the 29 kids didn't have a permission slip to go leave the classroom and come back. So we talked to them on a child level for them to understand what was going to happen. And we've also shared the class dojo app with them. So they were really excited to see when, because it starts as a little egg, and as you get more positive rewards, it hatches into a dinosaur. So they were really excited and thrilled to find out about what color their dinosaur would be, or if they had a positive feedback today, maybe it'll hatch tomorrow. And if they got a neutral feedback today, what will happen? Will it delay the hatch of the dinosaur? So that was kind of a game we played with them also.
And also, Class Dojo is something you can do with the parents as well, because they can have access to that information. So he goes home and he is like, "What did I get today?" Or the mother rewards them with the things they've got that day.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I found that to be very innovative as well, the fact that you chose Class Dojo. I wasn't aware of that app. That was something quite new to me when I read about it. So I definitely feel that you took into account our current historical situation and included the technological issue to help out. Congrats, ladies. Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Now, ladies, we'll have to ask you to leave for a minute so that the committee can start thinking and grading your defense.
Of course.
Okay.
It's on.
All right, recording. We're recording now.
Wait, Valentina's not here. She's coming.
All right.
We're calling the family.
Okay.
Ah, então. There you go. You can see us also.
Okay, go ahead.
We're good?
Yes. Yes. Go ahead.
Well, congratulations. It's a brilliant work. It's a work that has been very enjoyable to read, and it has scientific quality. We're very proud of you. And felicidades, licenciada! Felicidades, colega. And the final grade for this work, it's a 5. La nota final es un 5.
Bravo.
Felicidades a la familia. Yes.
Congratulations, ladies.
We can.
Ok, entonces esto ha sido la defensa de tesis de las estudiantes Constanza, Allen, Olavarrieta y Valentina Korpershoek Parquet. Felicidades a las flamantes licenciadas. Hasta luego.
We need a group photo, not Christopher.
Bye.
Do you have pictures?
Don't
I'll take a screenshot.
No, we have, yeah.
Just this one.